Today I'm joined by Chelsea Brown, founder of the Millie community, which is a social enterprise and community that amplifies women's voices and creates economic empowerment at a worldwide scale. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Before we jump into your current venture, I just wanted to learn a little bit more about your background. So, both in terms of social impact experiences and maybe some of your entrepreneurial experiences. So one thing that really interested me was outside of the Millie community, you have experience with VP operations and CSR at Clarity Management, advisory board member at Citi, strategic advisor for Femme International. So I guess you have all these amazing experiences with social impact. I'm kind of curious to know when did you first get interested in social impact and how has it developed over the years?
Definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me to join you. Um, I think we all either have, we're all born with specific interests. So it's nurture and nature. My mom raised us, well, my parents raised us very uniquely. My mom traveled all over the world when we were growing up. So I definitely think that instilled in me this desire to see the world and be part of it. My father taught us about like how to be humble from a young age. He was, how to give back. So we were raised with strong values in that regard. And then on a personal level, I feel like I never knew where I belonged. And I think that might be something that we all have felt. And so as I approached my late 20s and I was volunteering a lot in my early 20s, I kind of thought to myself, I think I want to find the root solutions to big problems because I don't think I've hit the nail on the head yet. So I was on a project in 2017 called the PIN Project, working with Syrian refugees. And I think it was this project that, in a nutshell, that really opened the door to the bigger picture of social impact. And in 2017, a team of us went to Jordan, which was my first country, my first trip in the Arab world. And it was an amazing experience that I'm sure we'll talk more about. And witnessing the beauty, the amazing people, the stories, politics, untold stories, misconceptions, that really inspired in me this desire to be part of it in a deep way. So that was really the genesis of the idea of Millie. And through our podcast, so I love to interview people as well. I met different types of women, including the former managing director of Femme International, founders of Citi. I've also visited the Citi headquarters in the Jerash refugee camp in Jordan. So it's really interesting. It's kind of a snowball effect. And really through putting yourself out there, you're going to receive back. So putting myself out there in terms of traveling on different projects, meeting different founders, these natural interviews kind of came to light. And then we were talking about various topics and their backgrounds, and then one thing might spark my interest. For example, period poverty and menstrual taboos in East Africa. It's all over the world, but I worked on a project in East Africa that just kind of snowballs into your life, and then you kind of either take the leap or don't. And I just said yes a lot. So it worked out for me. It's working out for me. I mean, I'm enjoying working on all these projects, but I think that's really what it's all about, organic development.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really love that. I love your honesty about kind of starting about maybe you're not 100% sure where to go, but staying open and being curious, kind of putting yourself out there. So you're taking the first step yourself and then whatever happens, happens. I love that.
Thank you.
So maybe how did you end up taking that first step to decide now's the time I want to start my own community or start my own
Mhm.
social enterprise?
That's a great question. So I think it's within us, as I was saying at the beginning, we all have a deep feeling, especially if you're in social impact. Some people believe that people in social impact have a deep experience that shaped them. I mean, that's all human beings, either good or bad. We can all look, we can all look within and think, what was that moment when we were children, positive or negative, that impacted our future. So there's that. And then, oh my gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Okay. And then it was being in Jordan. So that is a big part of it. And that's also a big part of finding your true north, which we can talk more about later, and kind of your purpose mission. But for me, it was really about being in Jordan and coming back with all of this, with this huge feeling of more people need to be doing experiences like this. I was so fortunate to have a seat at the table, because of my involvement with the project called the PIN Project, creating economic empowerment for Syrian refugees within the crafts industry. And I was lucky to have a seat at the table with, thought leaders, and like one of our partners was the UN. And I was younger than I am now, and it was so fascinating to me. And I think that more women have similar desires, men and women, and having that seat at the table, access to this information, access to this knowledge, the beauty, the life experience. So it was coming back from this trip that actually impacted, I'd say, my entire trajectory. And after coming back to Canada, I thought to myself, what can we do to bring more women together from around the world, share stories, because we have so much more in common than we don't, and sometimes people forget that, and it's what we know that can scare us, and that can stem into many different things. And I just wanted to combat all those things. So we assembled a diverse team. We spent months brainstorming, what can this be? And it was really really hard. And I remember feeling really discouraged and thinking, I'm never going to come up with a plan, an idea that's sustainable, an idea that can grow into a for-purpose business venture. And I think it's really those feelings of the feeling, that feeling that I just described is actually the feeling before you have a breakthrough, I think. So we had a breakthrough, and it was female solo travel, which was our concept pre-pandemic that we launched with. And from that moment in Jordan, and the work that I had done before that, understanding that women, women and men, but women in our case, turn around and mentor, they give back, they're going to communicate within their communities. And it was, focusing on women solo travel, is what carried us through the next step. But it was really kind of those steps, I'd say, that led to building Millie, which has now pivoted through COVID, of course, everyone has, but it was really being in Jordan. I mean, Jordan is so physically distant for a lot of people, and also emotionally distant. And that's only, one country. And I think we need to bridge the gap. We think at Millie, we need to bridge the gap for people, so people aren't physically and emotionally distant to cultures and countries. And, I've gone off now, but
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And you mentioned that you did have to pivot a little bit. So, a couple of things you have now: you have the Millie Marketplace, you have your own podcast, like you mentioned earlier. There's storyteller essays, and just the overall online community and your events that you have. How did you identify that all these different aspects can provide some form of social impact?
Mhm. So with the identifier, because I know you're working in social entrepreneurship, and I just want to highlight the original idea of travel and how we did conduct like research to understand the identifiers. So we did a lot of field research with that and understood kind of what the trends were in travel, what the demands were. And then in terms of pivoting, we thought to ourselves, how do you take a concept that is based on human connection during a pandemic? And we just realized that it's actually not, in-person connection. It's not about only in-person connection. It's about human connection. So understanding the rise of the podcast space, that was a natural next step, one that we actually wanted to introduce sooner. But social entrepreneurship is really hard sometimes. So you have to understand the timing and the right way to kind of unveil things, in my opinion. But we're happy that we now have it live. The marketplace was a natural next step because there is a rise of conscious consumerism. We're seeing it more and more today. I mean, the Gen Z demographic demand corporate social responsibility from organizations. Everyone needs to be transparent here, in my opinion. And we think there is a demand for sustainably made artisan pieces to fill people's lives. So that was part of our research. And then understanding our true north and what we want to accomplish and what we're doing, and brainstorming how are we going to pivot and continue to create economic empowerment for women. We thought to ourselves, we're not operating travel anymore. How can we continue to give business to people? Artisans were always was always a big area of what we did pre-pandemic. And so connecting artisans to conscious consumers around the world, mostly North America, with our demographic, it felt like a natural fit for us because we're still providing economic empowerment to makers in over 15 countries. And then we're still spreading stories. We're educating through storytelling, through pieces, through this coat. This little jacket is one of the pieces that we make with women makers in Afghanistan. And then the essays were another natural fit because, especially with what happened in Ukraine and what we've seen after and before, of course, but we started to really highlight women's voices in Ukraine recently, and now it will grow, not just Ukraine, but we thought our response to that was, how can we share stories, create awareness, share knowledge, and also give back in a monetary way and respond with a financial contribution to this. We're a small organization. We do what we can. So we compensate our storytellers, and we also provide them with a platform to share their story and educate people who aren't in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess when you're like evaluating maybe the feasibility of these different types of or legs, I guess, of your enterprise, maybe from first like the solo female traveling, how would you evaluate that was, it's very possible, it has potential there, and then post pivot when you're doing the newer sections here, how did you realize, okay, once we pivot, there's another opportunity here and it's also feasible?
Mm-hmm. We were very lucky. We had access to high level industry research on the travel side. So that was a huge help. I mean, I would really recommend research. That is so essential. Even for purpose organizations, you have to be sustainable. And especially now with grants, with programs, with any fellowship program, they really look to models that follow like the UN sustainability goals. So it's really essential that your idea is aligned with something that is scalable. I mean, we're learning every day about how we can improve. So certainly not the best, but yeah. So research was really important. And 5 years ago, female solo travel is still on the rise. Communication, like access to communication, is so massive right now, and I think women are looking to find their own blueprint, if that makes sense. And we saw that when considering how we were going to build this sustainable model. And then in terms of the markets now, we like to do design thinking. We like to approach things with the design thinking model. So when we're looking into any partnerships or any new divisions, we will follow the steps of design thinking approach. So like empathy mapping, I was recently doing with some people, and that way you can understand things based on interviews or data, and then you break it down and you follow the process and the steps, and then it's really it's magical because you're presented with the answer. So it's kind of a combo of EQ and IQ, I would say, for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really like that kind of focus on the research, and then I never actually knew about that design model thinking. Is that what it was called?
Yes,
Design,
design
yeah.
Design thinking, I don't have a social entrepreneurship degree. I recently did the social impact program at Georgetown, and we learned about this. And so, me as a leader at my firm, I'm always looking to learn, and it was essential this model because for someone, I just kind of figured it out and made missteps and then recovered from them as a founder. The knowledge and the program was so important for me to learn to brush up my skills and then apply them. And yeah, design thinking, the one part I really like is the empathy map journey. I find it very, very helpful. And design thinking in general is really great.
Awesome. I love that. I love that it's kind of like an ongoing learning journey. I think that's something that I've seen in common between entrepreneurs that I've been talking to, is that like life is just continuous learning. That's really important.
Yes.
Building on that, are there any challenges in the past that you've experienced that you learned like strong lessons from?
Mhm. So the things I'd highlight, I mean, marketing is, I'm not a natural marketer. That is hard. And you have to, if people don't know about you, they can't be part of it. So for us, we put our hearts into this. We are so proud of what we've done. We've worked with amazing women around the world who are working harder than us. They're blood, sweat, and tears, or blood, sweat, and tears. And we want to do good by them, and it means something to us. So marketing is essential. And as a business owner, for purpose business owner, it's challenging because marketing is very expensive. And there's a lot of congestion and a lot of noise, and you have to really work to find that lead generation tactics, and what your lead gen is, and your KPIs, and all of these things that are not my strong suit at all. So I'd say that was a challenge. That's been a challenge. Forming the right team is a challenge because in my opinion, it's really important to assemble your table with people that are different than you, not yes people. You need people who will challenge you and bring new ideas to the table. But I think, I'm sure you agree, we really will only listen to people we respect and whose opinions we admire. We're not going to listen to, someone on the side of the road who's saying, oh, no, you can't do that, or comments on Instagram, right? Who, you might reflect, and then people will say what they want. But I think that takes time, and you have to cut through the noise. There will be a lot of people who will have an opinion about what you're doing, or do this and do that. Oh, you're not going fast enough, or you need a board, or you don't need a board. And at the end of the day, I think that is hard. And then the other thing I'd say is, don't rush. I think sometimes we get excited or impatient. I certainly do, and definitely excited by ideas. But I think it's important to focus on the day to day. And when you build a strong foundation, then you really can grow on that. But it's easy to get excited about something that could be great. This could be great. Like, this would be awesome. Come on. And then you need someone to talk you down and say, you know what? I do hear you. However, let's consider this. What about we do it in a smaller pilot way, test it out, right? It's a whole process. And I think it's important to assemble a team that can help. So it almost works hand in hand. And then the marketing is, always going to be tough. But so for anyone starting out, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. There's a lot of different insights and lessons to be learned there. And
Yeah.
just going back to how you mentioned maybe marketing wasn't your strong suit. Over the past couple of years, when you're working on your own company, how did you manage to like wear all these different hats, and you're kind of doing several different jobs at once? How did you manage to balance all of those out?
Thank you. Well, this sounds so late, like so boring, but time management is essential. Someone said to me once, it takes a lot of compartmentalization to do a lot of things. But for me, and I think other social entrepreneurs, and yourself too, who's passionate about this field, you just have so much energy to do it. And I just kind of feel, I just really believe that we have the energy to do it. And if it feels aligned, you'll know. And I guess, through my multiple years of doing this in the past, I would feel maybe more pressure. Maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable saying no. I wouldn't really know how to potentially navigate things effectively at times. And we've all been there, I think. I'm like, should I feel embarrassed for saying that out loud? But now I've learned I really have to protect my energy, right? It's like anything. I think we have to just compartmentalize, organize your schedule in a way that makes sense to you, protect the energy, because it's a lot. It can drain you, and find projects that genuinely inspire you, and then it won't feel like a job.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Just that there's like that natural energy that you have there for the whatever you're passionate about. So just protecting that and organizing your tasks around that is a great idea. So before we finish up, is there anything exciting in the works for the Millie community or anything you can share?
Well, I'm excited because I'm actually going on a buying trip to Antigua, Guatemala, and I haven't been to Central America, and I haven't been on a buying trip. We've been, because we started we started the artisan market during the pandemic. So as much as I've wanted to go see artisans that we've worked with in Kenya or Colombia, I haven't been able to do that, but I've finally lined one up for the end of this month. I can say this month because we're in February, and see people in person, and then we'll have the collection for spring, and we're still sharing stories. We're going to be including different countries as well, which is exciting. And it was just so nice to speak with you, and thank you again for being interested in what we're doing, and I wish you luck on your journey with social entrepreneurship and investing, I think
Yeah,
is what
thank
you
you
would.
so much.